session and put it up. There we go. We are going to record this.
We're not going to record this.
So that there were a number of people who said, I can't come because it's Sunday afternoon. Can you record it for me so I can see what you guys are all about? And I said, absolutely, no problem. Welcome to the FSG 2023 kickoff. I think most of the people that are here know me. If you don't, welcome. I am Scott Monkern. I am lead coordinator for FSG 2023. I was also coordinator for FSG 2022. Quickly about this meeting is, first of all, I said it is being recorded. Go ahead.
Two.
There we go. The point of this meeting is we're not going to go into a ton of detail. We got 12 months. We'll talk about that a little bit till we actually have to run a festival, which is a lot better than the 3 weeks we had last year.
Yeah.
This is really about kind of pointing the direction we were headed, what things were good, what things were bad, or could use some improvement, and where I'm seeing us going towards 2023, because there's going to be a lot of, not a lot of changes, but a lot of difference. So hang on a second here. Why is it not letting me advance my slide? Hang on. Just a minute, I'm going to shut off that live transcript. That might help.
Because of course Scott had to do slides.
Because of course I had to do slides. So, all right, of course. Now, it's funny because I told Shelley there wasn't going to be a bulleted list, and ended up, as I was writing the slides, I was just going to do bulleted lists. So we're going to do bulleted lists, all of the government. So we're going to talk a little bit about FSG 2022 with some highlights. Most of the time we're going to talk here is about FSG 2023, and then I'm going to open it up at the end to discussion. If there's issues you want to raise or stuff you want to talk about, we'll do that at the end. On the good side of FSG 2022, our attendance was right between 270 and 300. We're still kind of wrapping our heads around that because of some challenges we faced. On-site registration worked really fabulously. Alice and her team did a great job of handling a really problematic situation with respect to registration, because we were literally doing registrations across multiple databases. None of us had really done it before, and so it was kind of a challenge. Vendor row sales. Jim came back to me and said that we had record sales with vendors.
Yay.
I mean, tons and tons and tons of sales. Every vendor was happy, to the point we had people coming up and saying, "How can I vend next year?" So that was really good. The energy at the festival was better than, in my opinion, was better than it's been in years.
Agreed.
The last time we had held an in-person festival, if you had talked to most people, they thought FSG was gone. They honestly thought that maybe 1 year, maybe two, but FSG was gone. When I got done at the end of the festival this year and was talking to people at the meeting on Sunday morning, and just talking around the festival, we said, we can't believe how much things have changed and how much things have improved in terms of this energy. There's a lot of energy surrounding the festival this year. Lots of positive response. There wasn't a lot of negative stuff that we saw. There was a little bit, there's always some stuff you kind of expect that at a festival, but in general, everybody was pretty happy. The volunteers this year did an amazing job. I asked the impossible, and Shelley and Joel asked for the impossible out of our volunteers this year. We were very short-staffed, had a lot of work. A lot of us were figuring out how this whole thing ran, because a lot of us were new to what was going, and you guys did a great job. And we really connected with attendees, which was one of my big objectives this year, was to, in the past, one of the big complaints had been this kind of thin blue line, or thick blue line, depending upon how you think about it, between volunteers and staff and attendees. It was a them, us kind of thing. And one of my objectives going into this year was to eliminate that kind of perspective. And I think we got a win on that. There were definitely some things we could improve on. Online registration was kind of a mess, and it was nobody's fault. We were dealing with a situation where we were with on Eventbrite, which no one had worked with before. We had registrations stretching across 3 different years of registrations on different organizations and different databases. We're going to fix that. We're going to be with one registration system in Eventbrite this year, and everything will go through it.
And we had this update.
There were some confusions about COVID policy. Obviously, this is a common festival problem of what the COVID policy is. We had published one. It was on the website. Some people said they hadn't read it. Some people were confused by it. We can do better We're going to make sure that we email people out earlier and often. We need to let out 6 months in advance, letting people know what the policy is. I expect it will stay largely the same policy. There was a lot of meal plan confusion because of the way the meal plan was set up in Eventbrite, and we can fix that. I've got some plans to how to fix the whole meal plan situation. While from our perspective, we don't think a lot about the dining hall. When dealing with Ramblewood, the dining hall is an issue for them because that's where it costs them a lot of money to run it. And we just didn't even come close to covering their costs with respect to the dining hall. We got to get more people in the dining hall, and we're going to talk about some ways to do that. Something someone pointed out was as well, with this particular year, there was definitely a sense of community. It felt like a bunch of smaller individual groups instead of a whole FSG community kind of thing. One of the things we want to work on is getting not just kind of those cabin group community feelies out there, but also all of us as a whole get a community feeling. And I got to let 2 more people in. Give me a second. Some people have come to us some ideas about that. Obviously, one of the big things we had last year was the rush, what I call the rush. We literally started doing most of the stuff for this festival on the 25th of May. We did have registration kind of open. We did kind of have a website that opened up in May or in April. But the rush to get the festival running was really hard on everybody. Fortunately, now we are in a position we'll talk about in a little bit where we've got 12 months to prepare. So we won't have to go through this rush. Because we've got 12 months, one of my objectives is to not put everything off until the last minute. We are going to have periodic meetings and periodic organizational stuff and make sure that as we go along, that we can even the load out. So we're not rushing at the last minute, because that's hard on everybody, really hard on your coordinators. T-shirt sales were very mixed. We only made like 5 T-shirt sales. It was very small, and that was because we did them online. We didn't have them on site. Jim has a T-shirt vendor that's is offered to come on and actually on demand T-shirt sales, where you can come up and say, I want a T-shirt in this size, and they'll print it right there for you. Hopefully they'll be able to come, and if so, that'll solve our T-shirt problem. If not, because printing up a bunch of T-shirts beforehand financially is just not realistic. It's very expensive. And it puts an enormous load on what you have to sell. We were talking about not FSG, but another event where they printed up books for something, and they've got 10 years later, they've still got a stack of books they haven't sold.
Scott,
Yes.
I may be able to assist with the T-shirt. You and I can talk at a later date, exchange through emails. I work for a printing company,
Okay.
and I have access to Cafe Press.
Okay.
And
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see. I mean, the problem with Cafe Press is you have to pay for them beforehand, and we just don't have the resources to do that. But we can
No, I don't
explore
think
our
so.
options that are available and see which ones are most viable. Hang on a second. Boy, they're
No,
all.
he works for the company that owns Cafe Press, is what.
Okay. Oh, well, that's even
which
better.
means
So,
that my rate will be better than any other rate you could
Okay.
find.
as we go down, I said we got 10 months. We'll start looking at options. We're not at the point right now where we want to talk T-shirts, but I'm just kind of saying that's something we need to fix.
Well, I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Put any
Um,
resource I can towards helping everything. So.
Yep. Okay, so that's FSG 2022 in a nutshell. Now let's talk about FSG 2023. The first thing we want to talk about is, and we had talked about this at the festival this year, is FSG's dates, which I know have always been the week before Father's Day since the beginning of time, are going to have to change. FSG's dates for next year will be August 1st through the 6th, 2023. I spoke with Ramblewood, and it's simply an issue. It is purely from them a fiscal decision. We are going to be a 300 to 500 person festival, and they have a festival with 1,600 attendees that once our week. And I cannot blame them. I mean, he said, look, I talked to Harry, but I said, look, if this would be a different conversation if we weren't in the post-COVID age. But he went 2 years with no revenue. He made no money for 2 years. And so he has to figure out a way to start kind of ramping stuff back up so he can make improvements. He offered us 2 dates. He offered us a date in May. It was a week and a half after THE's Beltane, and they offered us this date. Harry and Jesse did. I discussed it with the executive board, and the decision was that given those 2 options, the August date was the most viable. The reason for that is we are a very family-friendly festival, and May is in the middle of the school year. In addition to that, I don't know whether you've been on at Ramblewood in May, but it is, even in the first week of May, it is cold. I mean, and so the pool would definitely not be open without question, and you are running a huge risk of having temperatures in the 30s and 40s at night. And so given those 2 choices, we went with August 1st and August 6th. We know that for people who have already registered, there may be some issues that come up that they're not able to attend. We will address those issues accordingly. I'm kind of also hoping by moving to this date that people who didn't want to do the Father's Day week because of Father's Day and because it's right after school gets out, and in some cases when school gets out, we can attract other people by picking these dates. So that's officially on the website now. It's officially on the FSG event on Facebook. If anybody asks when FSG is, the answer is August 1st through the 6th.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If we get our numbers back up to much more viable, is it possible to shift those dates again, potentially?
The answer is yes, but I honestly tell you that I don't want to be at the numbers they're looking for. I don't want to run a 1,600 person festival.
No, I just mean even higher. So maybe we could pick an early fall date or something like that.
Yeah,
Before.
I mean, certainly if our numbers keep going up, the more our numbers go up and the better our financial relationship with Ramblewood gets, the greater flexibility we're going to have.
Gotcha.
And there's a lot of goodwill we've got there because FSG really started Harry down the path he's on right now. We were the first of what is now his primary business. And so he said, I recognize that. He said, and yeah, I think as our numbers go up, our ability to come back and say, you know what, could we have some different dates? Certainly a possibility. It's funny because Shelley and I were talking when we hit this date, and I said, boy, that's going to be bloody hot. And then I looked at this week and I said, wow, I mean, think about the weather we had this week. I mean, you couldn't have asked for better festival weather than we've had this last week. Highs in the
It's
70s in the
August.
80s.
It's August in Maryland. Don't count on it.
Yeah, but don't count on it, right? But as Shelley said, don't count on it. But it could be very hot, could not be very hot. But given our choices, I think it was the best choice.
It could be extremely hot, and that's going to be a deterrent to a lot of people with health issues. So
yeah, I get that, but it's like given the 2 choices we had, I think it was the best of the 2 choices.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
As somebody who has kids and the school year has been getting backed up more and more, the last couple years, I've actually had to pull my kids out of school to come to do festival. And right now they're in elementary school. That's not as critical. They get to high school.
Yep.
I will not be able to do that. So Father's
That was why May was definitely not going to work for us.
Yeah.
and the school year, the summer is getting much compressed for those of us who have children.
What?
The other thing that I've noticed
No, yes.
is that with the temperatures, yes, August can be in that high range. I've also seen Free Spirit Week, the June week, hit the same temperatures.
I'm having problems. I can't type and I can't think.
Could you,
In-
if you're not
in-
speaking, could you please mute yourself? Someone's talking in the background.
I'm so sorry. I thought
Thank
There
you.
go.
I've also seen the June week hit to the 95 to 100 degree in the Ramblewood area on numerous occasions. And again, my experience is I was camping in that area in June as a youth in Boy Scout camp that is literally on the other side of Darlington from Ramblewood. So we could have the same type of temperatures on Father's Day week, and I've seen it in Free Spirit, that we do in August.
Yes.
Keep in mind though, too, with climate change, we're not going to be able to tell what's going to happen where. It's not
Yeah.
about heat only, it's about cold. It's about extremes.
Right. So
You
yeah, we're
just
gonna have to
don't know.
see how it goes.
It's AC in the cabin. Yay!
I will tell you one thing, which is a bonus, which is another reason to be on the meal plan, is Harry has promised us that by August of next year, the dining hall will be air conditioned.
Oh, thank you.
He's not committing to all the cabins being air conditioned by next year, but the dining hall will be air conditioned, which is a huge plus for us and a huge plus for the youth as well. Okay, so that's the dates. I'm pretty happy with what as I said, I told people I thought we were going to have to move, and I think they gave us a date that we can live with, and do pretty well with. Okay, so let's keep going. The next thing is the first thing we need to do. This is kind of the first off the bat is we need a theme. The theme we had set at the end of last year, or the end of FSG 2022 or 2022, was expanding our horizons. Given we've now changed the dates, I'm kind of open to new ideas. And also we desperately need a new logo. I want to move us off of that. The Phoenix logo is very beautiful, but we're not in Phoenix anymore. We had our Phoenix year. We're now into a big year. So we need a new logo. And so if you want to design a logo or have a theme idea, or you know someone who is a graphic, it's the one skill set I don't have is graphic design. Is we need a logo. Just drop coordinator at freegathering.md.org with an idea and we'll take a look at them. James, yes.
That t-shirt vendor that I have in mind also designed the logo for the t-shirt at the festival that they were just at.
Okay. Ping him and see if he has some ideas.
Okay.
And have him reach out to me.
Okay.
Can I suggest a theme?
Go ahead.
Reaching new heights.
Yeah. Oh, that's a new idea. That's a good one.
We've expanded our horizons. Now we'll reach new heights.
There you go.
One is to lead into the next.
Yeah, which is perfect for our next slide, which is
Okay.
I hate to say it's about the business, but it's about the business. So what do I look as our target numbers for next year? I'd like us to see an attendance number of between 350 and 400. That's up about 80 to 100 from this year, about a 20 to 25% increase. That's a number Harry can live with. If we hit 350 to 400, that will make Ramblewood happy. We had 6 or 7 vendors this year. I want to see us at 20 next year. Yes, Jim.
We already have 12.
There you go. So getting to 20 vendors should not be a problem. 20 vendors gives us a pretty full merchants row. I obviously more is better. That's always the case. Well, not always the case, but I mean, I don't want 100 vendors. If we have 100 vendors, we've got a problem because we have nowhere to put them. But I think that 20 to 30 range is perfect. One of the things, again, which doesn't affect us, but something we've got to look at is we got to figure out a way to get people into the dining hall. That's just a fiscal issue with respect to Ramblewood. I've got some ideas on how to do that from a pricing perspective, a publicity perspective. I want to make the meal plan more, and I want to offer some better options as well. I want to offer like dinners only, breakfast and dinners, all three meals, that kind of stuff. Because the way it was done before, where you had to purchase everything or nothing, just didn't work out very well, and it was very confusing for people.
Barbecue was nice, though.
Yeah, the barbecue is great. He always does. If he has enough people, and that's what it comes down to, is the more people he gets, the more he's willing to do stuff like that. So
I think the fact is, if you advertise air conditioning in the dining hall, that'll definitely improve the numbers somewhat.
Yeah.
Hell, you'll have trouble getting people to leave.
Yeah, we gotta do that. Okay.
Can I make a comment about the food in the dining hall? To put this in perspective, as somebody who's done Boy Scouts in this area, for somebody buying a week event at a Boy Scout camp, provisional troop, food site, amenities would be comparable. And again, same regions, Maryland. For me putting a child into summer camp at a Boy Scout camp, which is effectively what we're doing as a pagan camp festival, is going to be $350 to $400. And that's the target that a site with the amenities Ramblewood handles has to get.
Yeah, no, so other organizations that book Ramblewood, a lot of them are going to, meal plan is just included. It is a non-optional item that when you book a ticket, it includes meals. We're one of the few organizations that is hanging on to the meals optional issue. And I want to hang on to pieces of that as much as we can, with the realization that as they point out, they said, look, the problem is the chicken is no longer $1 a pound, it's $3 a pound. And you can't, wastage is not an option anymore. Wastage is just way too expensive. So, okay, so let's go ahead and move on.
The last time I ate in the cafeteria, I had to go to the hospital with diverticulosis. So,
But my issue is that even before all of this price increases, the pricing in the dining hall was still very expensive.
Yes, it is, but it hasn't gone up. And I don't have a contract yet, so we don't know what the pricing is going to look like yet. So we'll have to see. I mean, I get where you're coming from, but it's something we're going to have to figure out how to handle. And it may be, I will tell you, it honestly may be a situation where if you're buying a ticket without meals, your ticket price is higher than if you're buying a ticket with meals. That is something that is on the table, where it's like 180 if you don't buy meals and 160 if you do buy meals.
It gives people an out, and I see that there's maybe medical reasons why people might not want to eat in the cafeteria, but I also see that balancing that out makes sense.
So we've got a little bit of time to decide that, and I don't want to, I said we got a lot of stuff to get through, so, and we got 12 months to do this in, so let's not get mired in it. Volunteers, obviously our big thing here is more volunteers next year. More volunteers means lighter workload. So if you know someone that might be interested in volunteering, or someone who's been attending for a while and hasn't volunteered, and say, look, you're part of this community, you've been going here for 30 years, why aren't you volunteering and helping us out? And we got to do more volunteer outreach. You go to the website, there's a I want to volunteer page, point them to it, and we'll get you plugged in. We're going to look at how we can handle volunteer discounts on registration. I don't have a firm plan because we don't have a budget yet. But I want to see a way where if you're willing to commit X number of hours or X amount of time, that you can get a discount. We can't necessarily give you for free, but we can talk about discounts along the way.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Volunteers need to also understand if they don't show up to volunteer as they have registered and they got that discount, there needs to be some kind of repercussion there because we've been used in past.
Yeah, I know. I completely get that. And so we'll figure out a way. It may be a simple one where if you don't make your volunteer hours, if you go next year, you owe us some money from the previous year before you register for next year.
That makes sense.
Automatically ding their credit card?
What?
You automatically ding their credit card or something like that?
Generally not. I mean, we could. I'd rather not. I'd rather simply say, look, if you volunteered and you didn't make your volunteer hours and you got a discount, you have to pay us back for that before you register for the next year. Knowing that some people will say, well, then I just won't come back, and we'll eat that. I mean, that's just the kind of cost of doing business.
Yeah.
The big thing I want to start implementing. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if they're going to do that, do we really want them at the festival? Like, oh God, I'm not going to come back because I owe you guys like $10 because I was a
and that's a fair question. The big thing that I want to start implementing, and this has been requested for years, is an apprentice program for department heads. Where if you're in a department head, we want to find someone who serves as an apprentice, and this is at every level, all the way up to coordinator, where we have someone that is in training to be your replacement. This is the way we avoid burnout at all levels.
Let me just chime in here with this works. If you find the right person, which I happen upon somebody, it really does work. I have had less stress in the last year since she's joined than I have had any year prior. Yeah. And as a department head, it really does help.
Now, you're absolutely right. It is, in fact, dependent upon when you do this apprentice program, that it is not a lackey program, it is an apprentice program, because that has been a problem in the past. Where if I sign up to be an apprentice as, say, head of pool lifeguards, I'll pick on Shelley, that when someone becomes the apprentice for lifeguards, that it's not just about, oh, here, do all these random stuff that I need you to do, but saying, sitting down and saying, here's how scheduling works, here's how you go out and get lifeguards. You actually sit down with this person and bring them into the fold and say, look, this is how you do my job. And you tell them how that job works. Some will be easy, some will be hard. If you decide you want to be an apprentice as a coordinator, I will tell you that is a very complicated job to learn how to learn. But it's one I would certainly have to do. I cannot be coordinator forever. It was made very clear during a ritual last year that Scott cannot be coordinator of this festival forever. He will eventually be going away in terms of being a coordinator. Better and earlier organization. I want to start getting all of our staff in place tomorrow, effectively. I'm going to go back and see who wants to be department heads, see who wants to come back, see who we want to come back. We also need to do better expectation management, which is if you're a volunteer, if you're a department head, what do we expect out of you? What do we need you to do? I tend to be, if people know this, I'm a very hands-off management kind of guy. I say, here's your job, go do it. If you have a problem, please just come to me. Otherwise, I don't want to hear from you. So that is dependent upon expectation management. That also means we've got to get department descriptions out. So we got to get to the website and say, here are the 15 departments that FSG has, here's what they do, and here's what a department head does. So that when people are saying, you know what, I'm kind of interested in being an apprentice to, say, registration. Well, here's all the stuff that registration does. Or I'm interested in being a apprentice to programming. Here's what they do. So all of that, or entertainment. Programming. So let's move on to programming. There's been a request for more community-related rituals. We basically had opening ritual, closing ritual, and main ritual, which someone suggested we get rid of them. No, I would like to keep those. I think they're an important part of the festival. But if you aren't aware, right now we do morning rituals at 9 o'clock in the morning. I run them, and we'll probably continue to do so. But not everybody likes to get up at 9 a.m. And go to ritual. So I'd like to kind of mirror that and do the same thing in the evening. And we're not talking long, complicated 3-hour rituals. We're saying, let's get together, upper fire circle, community field, somewhere, and just have a quick 20-minute, 15-minute ritual where someone does it. And we've got a couple of people that have volunteered to start working on that process. So that we do it after dinner, before dinner. We'll figure out the logistics, but having somewhere where community can gather together every night, meet each other for 15 to 20 minutes and do something, I think is great. I think it's a great idea. We obviously want to get more presenters. We had a lot of presenters like Clytus that did a lot of workshops, and we had a lot of people doing like 4 and 5 workshops, which is I really appreciate it. It's a lot of work. We need more presenters on different topics. And we need new presenters. New presenters are always good. Now, prior coordinators talked about big national presenters, which I'm fine with, but I'm not willing to pay a lot for. I think there's a ton of local talent. We just got to go out there and get them. As an example, I've been in discussion with Amy Blackthorne about coming out. And she's a big name. And she will come out for basically the price of a ticket. And then we also have to organize, how do we handle presenter discounts? And that's similar to like what we do with volunteers. The other thing in terms of programming that's been talked about is fire circles. Because we ran a lot of entertainment and we didn't want the entertainment in the fire circle to be done, there was a lot of complaints about the fire circles running so late. We're going to have to move the fire circles earlier. Now, whether that means fire circles on top of entertainment or cutting back on our entertainment to fewer events. Go ahead.
If we can perhaps pull back on workshops in the pavilion, we can run the entertainment earlier and not overlap.
Okay. Yeah, we got it. I mean, we can't start, we were starting fire circles like at 10 or 11 at night. We got to be starting fire circles like between 8 and 9 most nights.
Okay.
So we are going to move the fire circles up in terms of scheduling. The next thing is someone had raised this issue, which is I want to do an increased focus on spirituality, much more kind of a mystical spirituality kind of focus. We had a lot of it. There was a ton. We want to push it even further. One of the things someone suggested, I've actually been to a couple of festivals that have done things like this, is cabin altars, where we offer the ability, particularly for people who are in an organized cabin, but even people who aren't in an organized cabin, saying, look, we'll put a table out in front of your cabin. We'll give you an altar cloth, set up an altar. And then have some kind of event centered around those altars. And again, very early discussion, but it's good in community building. It also gets people going from cabin to cabin. So we break that cabin mode. So we say, oh, so-and-so down here has a Hecate altar. Or go ahead, Jim.
Not to interrupt, but I had brought this up at festival about having an ancestor altar.
Right.
Down somewhere,
one of them.
down somewhere by maybe the amphitheater where everybody could go.
Yeah. So we can also do, if the cabin altars thing doesn't work, something to consider. I got to figure out how to do it, which is there's another festival I used to go to where they actually had a field where you could say, I want to set up an altar to this, and we'd give you a spot on the field, and you'd have like 30 or 40 altars in one big field. Logistics we're going to work on, but the idea is let's put up a bunch of altars so that we can get some mixing going on. I want to do more rituals during the day. I want to get some rituals during the day, not just in the evenings like we were doing, just to make things interesting. More advanced classes. We had a lot of good, really advanced classes. I want to get more of those advanced classes. In addition to the 101, FSG has been always described as a 101 festival. I want to keep our 101, but I want to add our 201, what I call the 201 level stuff, and on spiritual topics. Something I've proposed, and this is, we're going to figure out how this is going to work, is what I refer to as a spirituality exploratorium. I think this could be huge. I'm a member of an organization called the Human Library Project. And if you're not familiar with it, the way it works is the project comes to you and says, we hear that you have this aspect about your life. For me, it was being the fact that I was heathen, but they have everything from heathens for alternative sexualities to people who have things they're discriminated against. They have race-related issues. And the way the Human Library Project works is they'll set up a day with the library, and all these people who are, quote, books, as they call them, come in, and people can come in and ask questions of all these people. You basically, you sign the person out like a book and say, I want to talk to Scott about heathenism for 20 minutes. Or I want to talk to Shelley about being a counselor for 20 minutes. Or I want to talk to Alice about gender transition. And you offer that. And you sort of basically have a big room where people can come in and ask these types of questions. I've seen other types of this done at other festivals. They tend to be very popular. And so I want to see if we can make that happen. Basically take a day or two in the tin can and say, come in if you have a question about various paths. You can just walk in and there's 20 different paths out there. And you can literally go table to table to table asking questions. I think that'd be kind of huge. Someone's asking about rituals for veterans, a good idea. And a walk to the river. Yeah, which you did last year is another one. Okay, so that's that. Now, the other thing which we're working on is Stone Circle Sanctuary came to us right in the middle of festival and said they wanted to issue, council, thank you. My apologies. It's Stone Circle Council, not Stone, what is it? Stone Circle Council?
Council, yeah, we don't have land, so we can't be a sanctuary yet.
Yeah, okay. Where they wanted it, my apologies, we'll fix that.
It's okay.
They had come to us saying they wanted to establish a partnership. That they're looking to run a they were looking to run a festival, and they think merging with FSG or partnering with FSG would be a better way to go. I want to foster that and see how we can make that happen. It'll bring in an automatic 50 to 80 attendees, which gets us almost all the way to our number for next year. They've offered to give us an influx of startup cash if we absolutely need it. They have some cash sitting around, so we have to pay Harry a little bit of money up front. That money's there, but we've got money, so it's not necessarily a problem. Obviously, an increase of alternative programming, and in particular, the thing that's interesting is they would like to put up a stone circle up at Ramblewood as a possibility. I've talked to that briefly about Ramblewood. I think they'll be interested, and that'll be a discussion we'll have in the next couple of months about that whole situation. Yeah, and Clyde has pointed out that with respect to more advanced topics, there's always people who want to learn more. And that's right, which is why we want to move to, we got to keep our 101 roots, but we got to get into our 201 process as well. The not so exciting stuff about running a festival. Budget. We don't have a budget yet in place because we don't have we have a date from Ramblewood, but not a contract. And we can't do anything until we see a contract for budgeting purposes, because I don't know what the numbers are going to be. I'm going to target to have us a budget by mid to late September is my number. By mid to late September, we should have a pretty good picture of where we're at financially, and for department heads, how much money we can give you.
That's better than having to work from now till June. So thank you.
Yes. Need to work on a way to increase dining hall attendance. We talked about that. Communication. We got to improve communication. I know this year we ran on the Facebook chat. That works for quick communications, but you can't have a 10-paragraph Facebook message because it's impossible to read and it gets difficult. So we're going to do, we've got some email lists I'm going to post up in a little bit. I think I've got them working. I tested them all just before the event, just before this meeting. They were all working. Subscription is a little slow, but once you get it, it's working pretty well. So we'll move to more, particularly for staff, moving to more email list discussion. Okay, timelines. What am I looking at in terms of timelines? Between now and February, we'll hold monthly department head and staff meetings. We don't need everybody here, just department heads to get stuff organized. And that'll be September, October, November, December, January, and February. Starting in March, we'll go to bi-weekly. So we'll meet every 2 weeks. Then when we hit June, where we're really moving into the kind of the meat of things, in June and July, we'll go to weekly meetings. And then we're going to try to shoot for Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern. It seems to be a good time for most people. I know for some people it's not. We'll do recordings. Haven't picked the day of the month yet. I got to work on that in the next couple of days. My preferred mode is that unless absolutely critical, all meetings are less than 60 minutes. I think the minute you hit 60 minutes, people start to tune out. So you'll notice here it's about 1:42. I've got about 3 slides left. We will definitely be done with our primary meeting stuff by 2 o'clock. 1 hour is my target number, with recordings made available. Oh, hang on. There we go. See, we got 3 more slides to go. On the public facing side, I originally had hoped that we were going to do a big splash on September 1, but that was when we were going to do a June festival. Now that we are doing an August festival, I want to do our big registration splash on October 1. That's my kind of magic number. Joseph asked, where do we go to recordings? I got to download them, process them, and then I'll put a note on the email list in the Facebook book with a link to it. I'll probably put them in a hidden area of YouTube. You do hidden areas of YouTube if you don't know how to do that. So we'll start our first big registration splash will be October 1st.
I think that should be 2022.
Oh, 2022. Thank you. These all should be 2022.
Sorry.
Thank you. This is what happens when you're doing slides at like 9 o'clock in the morning. With a price increase in January and a second price increase in June. So I expect we'll probably be in the 180, just to give you a feeling, I think we'll be at 180 in October. We'll probably be around 210 in January and probably around 240 in June. Those are the numbers I'm looking at right now. We're going to do regular emails out to registrants and Facebook group posts as well. My battery died on my mouse. Okay.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the pricing again?
Yeah, the numbers I'm targeting for are 180, 200, and 240.
Okay.
We offered
that is not including food.
That's not including food. And obviously that's very subject to what numbers Ramblewood gives us. It's based upon kind of historically what we've seen. I got to see what their numbers are, but those are the numbers I'm shooting for. I mean, I think they're pretty realistic. We've got, excuse me. We've got several email lists. First one is the announcement list we're going to use for attendees. I'm going to send out invites to everybody who's registered to this list in the next couple of days is FSG announce, and there's the email address where you can subscribe to it. It is a moderated announcement only list. So if you get a message, you can't just reply to it. It goes to the owners and not to everybody. Another one we're going to do is put an FSG chat list. So if people want to talk about FSG, That'll be open to anybody who wants to talk about FSG. And then we've got a staff list, which has a really weird email address because of the way the staff lists are organized. So we'll have a staff list as well. And this way, I'll send these out as an announcement to everybody here in the next week. We do have lists set up for departments. When I took on the responsibility of IT director 3 years ago, one of the things I did was I created lists for every single department. So there's a programming list, and there is an entertainment list, and there's a lifeguards list. I'm not going to publish those until the department head comes back to me and says, because some departments need them and some departments don't. And so if you become a department head and you decide you want that staff list, we'll give that to you and it's ready to go. I just have to publish it and turn it on. That is where we are headed. That is my vision for the next year. It's a big one. At this point, I'm going to open up a conversation with anything that people want to raise. Now, let's not get mired in details. And that's the first thing I'm going to say is, don't ask about the minutiae because we're not there. But if you have general overarching thoughts, those are the kinds of things we want to hear at this point.
I want to thank you, Scott, for helping out after my disaster coming home. That was kind of harrowing if you hadn't heard about it. I may even take the train next year.
Scott, I would like to propose a theme idea.
Send it to me via email. Send it to coordinator.
He can say it. He could say it too.
Yeah, say it, but I want it via email so I can process it. What were you thinking?
Makes sense. Recall the Hindu cosmology wherein the world is held up by elephants, which are held up by a turtle. The theme being, well, I guess the tagline being, "We are the turtle," because we hold up the elephants and thereby hold up the world. I guess the theme would be better expressed as the whole idea of stewardship.
Okay.
Of the planet.
Okay. Yeah, do me a favor, drop me an email with that and I'll take a look at it and see, and I'll take all of them, then I'll probably actually sit down with the exec board and say, here's what we've got, what do you guys want? Other comments?
What kinds of rituals and stuff were you thinking during the day? Like,
I don't have any idea. I know you submitted a ritual. I haven't looked at it. I looked at it briefly. It's a really cool idea. That is definitely more of an evening ritual than a daytime ritual.
It's definitely.
Yeah. Don't know what I want during the day, but I'd like to see us do daytime rituals.
Okay.
And I will tell you, all of this stuff that I proposed on is not just dependent upon Scott's vision, which is not always perfect, but also finding people who are willing to take that on, because I cannot take on all these projects. So if we don't have someone that wants to come up and help organize daytime rituals, then it's not going to happen. But these are the things I'd like to see. I can't dictate from the top.
There's far too much in the past. We have seen more of an attitude that FSG is Disneyland, where you come to be entertained, versus in the distant past when FSG first happened. I was there day one. Mm-hmm. Everyone who walked in the door made something happen. It was a community effort. And going back to that is probably gonna be a little hard with some folk, but even any little thing will help.
Yeah.
So if we have somebody who can contribute to the rituals during the day, and there's more than one, that will probably help to get more people involved, I would think.
Yeah, right. And there are always going to be people that are going to want to come, do the festival, go to their classes, and not add content, which is great. I mean, that's one more butt in a seat, far as I'm concerned.
Right.
But we also need to get those people. And I think this is where we haven't done a good job of getting people saying, look, it's time for you to step up and do something small. I mean, think about it, saying, would you do one 20-minute ritual on a Wednesday night? We'll even help you organize the ritual if you want us to. It's not unreasonable to kind of ask some people to do, particularly the people who are big in the community.
I have a suggestion. Yeah. I took a course a long time ago when I was back in actually working for a living. where they talked about modalities of thought and how to reach people.
Yes.
And the truth is, we're all of very differing modalities, and some people want visual, some people want olfactory even.
Yeah.
The more modalities that we hit, sight, sound, hearing, olfactory, not taste necessarily, because it's the cafeteria and they're going to do what they do,
Right.
but everything that we can hit, and also hands-on, like a ritual that has people actually hands-on doing things in the moment.
Absolutely.
All of that, the more we do with each modality, the more people that will come back saying, I really felt connected to it this year.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that comes down to getting more people to do more programming. The more people we get to do more programming, the more modalities we're going to hit along the way. Okay.
Well, also things like decorating the pavilion, it's sight for those who are visual people. If we can maybe at some point between now and next year come together as a team to perhaps make things for down at the fire, for instance, maybe directional things, elemental things, to sort of make the area more than just a fire, but a pagan ritual fire, for instance.
I think it's hard to do gatherings of people for like meetings and organizational stuff like that throughout the year, because we're very geographically diverse now, and it's getting more so, and it's a scheduling issue more than anything else. But I do think the idea of saying we need these kind of things to be created, and can you bring them to the event, that we can do.
Yeah.
And just rely upon people doing that stuff. Okay, other stuff.
Oh boy, here's a big one.
Okay, go ahead.
I did not copy the person
Go ahead,
who just
Zed.
talked.
You can talk.
Okay. Communication among the staff, among the participants, between the staff and the participants, between the staff and the volunteers and the participants, has so very much varied over the course of, what has it been, 30, close to 30 years, 40 years of gathering. And I don't know, it's been a lot of people stepping on other people, and I don't know, I can recognize the problem, but exactly how to work through that problem, exactly how to solve that problem, is beyond me, because, you know, having been one of the early people at Free Spirit gatherings, I have seen the way it has changed through the years. As Lynn points out, back in the early days, there was a whole lot more community involvement, which is a whole lot more easy when you have a smaller group. I am not proposing that we go back to the small group. That is a bad idea. There are many reasons, as you've always pointed out, to do more and more outreach. But how do we improve that sense of communication? How do we improve that community?
So the answer, I think there's kind of two levels you think about. One is internally, and then second one is externally. Internally, one of the challenges we faced last year is we were literally building departments like a week before festival.
As I said in chat, I wish I didn't know what that felt like.
Yeah, you really don't want to know.
No, I do know.
Yeah.
I've done it. That's why I wish I didn't.
Yeah. If we can get our departments built early, as we grow, yes, we'll have big meetings like this with everybody, but we can have department heads that can actually run and communicate with their departments. And so that'll help, is having departments that are well organized at the beginning, they can do communication that way, and that'll help internally. Better communication between obviously your coordinators and your department heads is going to improve as well. Regular meetings that we can hold to address issues, and not doing like a meeting every day for 3 weeks. Moving from Facebook, which not everybody's on, and Facebook Messenger, to email-based lists. I know some people say, well, email lists, I don't see them all the time and all that kind of stuff. For record-keeping purposes, email is such a much better mode of communication. If you post a message to a Facebook chat message, it's going to scroll away in a day or two. I mean, it's way back if you search for it, but it's not threading, it's not searching. If we go to email lists for major communications, that will help. They'll also get us away from the I'm not on Facebook rule. Externally, one of the challenges we faced last year was this myriad of registration systems we were on. If you were going to send out an email to everybody, it took me a half a day to send out an email to everybody. Because like, oh, I have to go to this database and I have to go to this database. If we get everybody in Eventbrite, it becomes simple. It's post to the Facebook group, post it to Eventbrite, post it to the FSG email list. And you make sure that whenever somebody registers, they get invited to the FSG email list. That'll be the first one of the
I
first.
don't want to have to go on Facebook.
What?
No Facebook.
Right. I mean, well, you post it there because a lot of people read Facebook, but it is not your sole method of communication. I think that'll help.
I just refuse to have anything to do with Facebook.
Yeah. Does that help? Does it help you, Zen?
You're muted, Zen.
You're muted, yeah.
Right. Forgot to unmute myself. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Yes, basically it addresses the concern. Whether or not it works is, well, the only way we can really do it is try it and find out.
Exactly. It is, well, and the thing is prior to this year, if you went on Facebook and you look, the number of different places where there seemed to be more and more free spirit stuff was all over the place. Multiple groups, multiple pages, all that kind of stuff. There's a free spirit gathering event. It's a festival event. It's not just a one-time, it's actually, this is a festival event in Facebook where you can run events year to year. That's which we'll use in Facebook for Facebook style communications. That will be our communication. And we'll post to the other areas saying, we're moving all the free spirit stuff over to this festival page. If you want to read about it, here's where the information is at. We got to consolidate our free Facebook stuff because it's all over the place right now.
Confusing.
And some of it, unfortunately, we're not in control of either because of politics issues. But
Yes,
that's on my fixing list.
One of the things that thanks Facebook. Facebook has really made some big changes that restrict public groups. My idea for the FSG official page is it's not going to be a page where everyone can post and chit chat, and it'll be an announcements page. It'll be controlled. Only a few people will be able to post to it so that we won't have contradictory information. But a lot of people do go to Facebook to get information. So we don't want to close that avenue off. We want to have communication and a front-facing advertising page out there where official communications can be posted for people who look on Facebook for that kind of thing. But the problem we were having before is we had one thing on the website, and then we had someone else posting something on Facebook that people took as official, and then we had someone else over somewhere else, and as Scott said, we have multiple, there's old Facebook sites, new Facebook sites, this, that, and the other. We're gonna have one FSG official Facebook site where everything we put on the lists that's announcements for the festival goers would be mirrored. But it would also be, so that people have that as a source, but we don't want to just let it be a free-for-all where people can post any old information, whether it's accurate or not. That's where we ran into problems with the COVID stuff.
Yes, well, I have a lot of, seriously, bookmarks and passwords and mailing lists from FSG itself that are completely obsolete.
Oh yeah, and some of that we can get rid of, and some of it we're gonna have to figure out how to. We're gonna have to figure out how to make those we can't get rid of them because they're under control of somebody that we don't have supervision over, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah.
That's one of the challenges this year, is how to face that. So there were a lot
No,
of,
Bella, that we're going to mirror official
Yeah.
communications to the Facebook group for people who do use Facebook. You do not have to get Facebook
yeah.
unless you want to see it there too. It'll also be on the lists.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There are a lot of comments in chat about touching, and I'll go through these chat messages. I don't want to go through all of them. And I'll issue comments about them and I'll add them to the list as well. So when I publish out the video, we can see all the comments as well. I don't want to go through all of them. There are a lot of them. Anything else?
Well, that was all. Most of that is, just so you know, just it's when you're having these rituals and we're basing them on different sensations, having alternatives for people who don't want those sensations and that sort of thing. Yeah, it's conversation
Okay.
along that line.
Got it.
I think that what Scott and I are really kind of wanting to do with some of these rituals is kind of incorporate that whole exploratorium idea too. So if you have a group, I'm going to use my group as an example, a group like Universal Temple of Spirits. You know, if we didn't already have something where we were introducing our tradition to everybody, we could sign up, do one of the rituals in advance. We want this in advance so we can put it on the program. People could do hey, today's evening ritual is being presented by the XYZ temple. And people could go to it to see what a ritual like by the XYZ temple is like, and that sort of thing. I just want to kind of expand, you know, we're not all heathen, we're not all wicked, we're not all African diaspora mixed with global traditions. You know, we have a whole bunch of different ideas out here, and we are the free spirit community. So we want to reflect the community so that when we hold up the festival, the festival mirror, people can see themselves in it, basically.
Okay, anything
That makes
else?
sense.
It is 2:00, folks. I told you an hour. Any other comments before we let people go? I'm good. Thank you all for coming. I know that time, as I tell people, in this universe, time is in fact money. We, of all the currencies we have, our time is the most valuable thing. So I thank you all for coming. I will post a link to the video out. I'll send it out to the email list. I'll send it out to the Facebook group. And I'll post it to other locations as well. If you don't get it the next couple of days or can't find it, let me know. And so that, yeah, so I'll get the email lists and everything better organized. So if you have ritual ideas or whatever, or we're going to have a discussion, we'll do that on the staff list. And we'll get that stuff running. So there we go. Everyone have a good afternoon wherever you're at. Thank you all for coming. I'll also send out a notice about next month's meeting as well. I'll set it here in the next couple of weeks, and I'll set up next month's meeting, which will be sometime in September. Yeah.
Last comment from me. Thank you for doing this and everything else that you've been doing. Thank you, Shelley. I know you're backing him up and doing a lot of work too. Thank you, James, for all you do for vendors. I'm so happy that the numbers were up this year. It's largely to do with you. And thank everyone for all they do for FSG.
You guys are amazing. As I said, the phrase I used was rock stars. Going into festival last year, there was some real concern about how things were going to run. And I will tell you that, and I laugh because I talk about this as a model for operations for coordinators. I said, I did meeting by cart, which I basically was in a cart and I went from cabin to cabin to cabin. And anytime someone needed to address an issue, I said, get in the cart and I'll address it between now and the next cabin. And all I did was solve little problems. I didn't have to do any of the day-to-day management of the festival this year. And you don't know how much that makes a coordinator's job easy. To have staff where I can say, you're a responsible, smart human being, you know what you're doing, I'm out of your way. And that's been a problem in the past, is that I let people do their job and said, if you got a problem, come to me, I'll fix it for you. But if it's just the operations, you know what? You can do it yourself. You're an adult. We're all adults here. So thank you all for coming. And we will talk to you all next month.
Thanks. Bye.